I want to close by having you read a passage from the book, which I think is perfect for our audience, if you wouldn't mind.
Not at all.
And I have it outlined, of course, in hot pink. It's that section.
Okay, it's nice
right
and
there.
short, huh?
Yeah, it's nice and short.
So I'll just read it?
Yeah, because it's your word. I don't want to read your words, but I think it's so perfect for this show.
Suspending self-judgment doesn't just mean blowing off the "you suck" voice in our heads. It also means liberating ourselves from conventional expectations, from what we think our work ought to be or should look like. Stay stupid, follow your unconventional, crazy heart.
Welcome back to the channel. This week's clip is going to be Stephen Pressfield again. This is going to be our final Stephen Pressfield clip. And then we're going to be moving on to some different kind of aspects of how energy law is affecting a different aspect of your life. But for now, this is kind of like the end of our introductory clips. By this point, you should be getting a pretty good grasp of the basic fundamentals of energy law. And from this point forward, we're going to start peeling the layers of the onion away and showing how it's affecting all kinds of different aspects like psychology and economics and the environment. All of these things will be dealt with over the course of the next year. But let's watch the next clip, and then that will be the wrap-up of our introduction, and then we're going to get into the real nuggets and meat and bones of what this is doing on all these other different levels. So let's watch the clip.
Resistance with a capital R for me, if this were your keyboard here and you were going to sit down to write a novel or a screenplay or something, and you sat down the first day and it was blank, radiating off that screen like radioactive magma would be a negative force saying, let's not do this today, let's go have a drink, let's go to the beach, let's do something else. And it also would say things like, who do you think you are to tackle this project? You have no experience. Who cares about your ideas? Everything's been done before. You know, it's all of those self-sabotage things. There seems to be a force in the world that is a negative force against anything any dream that we would have. An analogy that I always use is if the dream is a tree, resistance is the shadow that's and as soon as the tree appears, the shadow appears, right? So it's that negative force that prevents us or is trying to prevent us. And it seems to me that overcoming resistance is far more important than talent or anything else.
Yes.
Any gift. There are a million people who have talent, but it's a very, very few that can sit down, and take it all the way from, A to Z. Resistance is so diabolical. It really has its own intelligence,
Yes.
It's like the alien that keeps evolving from this little thing,
Yes.
And so that even at my stage of the game where I've done it a million times,
Yes.
it comes up with more subtle, rationalizations and self-rationalizations that to kind of trick me into taking a break or not doing it. But it never goes away. And never gets any easier, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, no, I love this because I feel like, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but there's so much power in understanding a bit of what's coming at you.
Yes. It's almost like once you understand that,
yes,
you can beat it.
Yes. So I love that you hit upon this notion of how diabolical it is in its shape-shifting nature. So I'll say this. I remember how resistance had a certain tenor and tone, and it said certain things at the beginning. A lot of my self-doubt had to do with and this is, again, I'm going to roll my eyes at myself, people. If you've heard this before, forgive me. But starting a coaching business as a life coach as a 23-year-old, I was like, who the hell's going to hire a 20? You haven't even lived life yet. This is the dumbest idea ever. How can you be smart and have this dumb idea at the same time? This was nuts. But I would have never gotten here today. But today it sounds different. So today my resistance will sound something like, oh, well, now I have more to live up to because I've been doing this, so I feel, I just want to say this because I think people have a mistaken notion that they're going to arrive at some point.
Yes.
Or then it's going to be easy, and they're not going to hear those
Where's
voices.
Where's the camera? You're never
All
gonna,
of them. You're
never going to arrive at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, I love these conversations because I feel like sometimes there is this veil, or people have these mistaken notions about folks that are just in the game grinding it out day after, and
Yeah,
they feel like they have some magical mystical ability that they don't, and it's not true.
not
It's
true.
it's just not true.
And to look at it in the positive way,
Yeah.
resistance to me is sort of like the villain in a movie.
Yeah.
If there were no villain, there'd be no movie. So resistance is sort of gives meaning to everything.
Yes.
If it was just there and all we had to do was pick it up, what would be the point of that?
And there's no great stories to tell then too,
Yeah.
right?
So resistance really gives significance, I think, to
Yeah.
the fact that it is so hard.
Yeah.
So by this point, if you've actually sat through all of these videos, there's pretty much going to be two types of people. There's going to be the type of person that sees everything that we've shown that is going to say, well, this is all just self-evident, like, duh, of course you got to work and you got to work hard. And then there's going to be the other people that are going to be viewing this as a total revelation. And the real question you have to ask yourself, because she's completely correct, there's so much power in knowing what's coming at you. And right now, at this point in the videos, you have been given the tools that you need to understand what it is that's coming at you. This whole system is affecting you on so many different levels, but it is the same fundamental pattern that you have to follow to achieve the goal. So you have the tools now to do it. The question you have to ask yourself, even if you are one of the this is just all self-evident people, is why aren't you doing it already? That's the key question, because there's very, very specific reasons why you're not acting. And even with the tools, you will continue to not act, because we are hardwired to respond in a very specific way. The actual first rule of energy is this: unless being utilized, energy will always follow the path of least resistance. So unless you are consciously aware or forced through circumstance to start directing your energy at the obstacle, you will always try to avoid it, because your subconscious default is to always be seeking the maximum amount of potential for the least amount of effort. Very, very fascinating once you understand this and start seeing it around you. Your procrastination is a very, very, very interesting thing that most people are doing all the time. There are three aspects of our energy law model that deal with path of least resistance. The first one is in the potential constant reality. This is the highest level of the model that you are aspiring to achieve. The problem is that you're aspiring to achieve this without having the adequate potential to do it on a massive scale. You're always seeking to achieve the greatest amount of flow with the least amount of obstacle. But you can't do that until you've actually established your potential. But you're trying to do that all the time. You're always looking for the easy way out until you become aware that it is only through the conscious directing of your action through the resistance that you will actually establish the higher potential so that you can actually reach that lifestyle. The second aspect of path of least resistance that is shown in our model is at the very, very bottom. It's interesting that it is at the top and it is at the bottom. The very, very bottom is the resistance constant reality, and if resistance is constant and current decreases, potential difference decreases. If you are constantly facing a problem, the added resistance of the pressure that you have by doing things is the thing you will discard all the time. Because if you can't control the circumstance, all you can do is try to minimize its impact on you. So you will avoid the pressure that goes with engaging the resistance. That's another form of path of least resistance. You're not compounding the resistance by adding the pressure to it. So you start saying to yourself, well, if everything's crap anyway, why should I even try? That's at the most dangerous place in this model to be, because it is the downward spiral into ever increasingly more resistance, while you simultaneously get weaker and weaker as a result. The third aspect of path of least resistance in our model is the bottom level of the action constant reality. If current is constant and resistance decreases, potential difference decreases. So if there's this massive resistance that you know you are supposed to be battling it out with, like the villain in your movie of your life, but you're avoiding doing it, this is the phase of the law that you are in. You're directing your action, but instead of directing your action at overcoming the problem, you're directing your action at avoiding the problem. These are the levels the average person is trapped in until they become consciously aware that only through engaging greater resistances do you grow. This aspect of the model is the power source. It is the part that she is describing of you become empowered once you know what's coming at you. If you know what's coming at you, then you have the ability to adjust and correct accordingly. If you have watched all these videos, you know what you're obligated to do now. The next section of videos are going to explore how you became who you are through the inadvertent creation of circuitry, like we learned from the Kitty Chisholm video, through all of the different activities that you've been participating in and the habits that you've formed. The human being's greatest strength is our ability to adapt. Unfortunately, our greatest weakness is that we are constantly adapting all of the time, whether you're aware of it or not. Your brain is constantly creating new circuitry through repetition of use, whether you're aware of it or not. Our greatest strength has become our greatest weakness. That's why we need to become more aware of Ohm's wheels of life and how they are the compass to guide us out of the mess that we've created in our own brains through the home we grew up in and the society we were raised in. We look forward to diving into that next section. Once again, if you're new to the channel or you just stumbled onto this, what we do here is I find different clips online and then I equate energy law to it so that you have a greater understanding of who you are, your place in the world, how everything is working the way that it is, and in a lot of cases, why it's all so messed up. So keep tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe. Share this video with friends if you found it interesting or if you think there's someone that you know that could benefit from the information. Be sure to spread this as far and wide as you can. We look forward to seeing you next week. And remember, if there's an obstacle in front of you, become consciously aware of it and don't subconsciously keep avoiding it, because it is only through pushing through it and overcoming it that you will become the best version of yourself.